everyone. Great to have you with us today. We are doing what I think is actually our third segment in this whole December has been a busy month for us. We've been all over the place to the various different exclusive books branches, and we find ourselves today in this gorgeous branch. We're actually at Olives and Plates in Hyde Park in the exclusive books branch here. If you haven't eaten here, you really should. Eusebius?
It's absolutely, the cuisine here is amazing. I'm starving as we speak, Joe. I don't know about you.
True that. And I'm going to ask you in a moment about what you're going to have for breakfast. But essentially, this version of the show, or this episode, is a cookery show. And why we've done that is because, I don't know about you, Eusebius, I can literally get into bed with a cookery book and read it the way I read fiction, non-fiction.
That's true, although some of them are quite heavy. You should be careful. It falls on top of you. You will not wake up again.
I try not to fall asleep. Okay, you're obviously alluding to the Tasha's book there. We'll have a look at that in a short while. But of course, food plays such a huge part in our lives, UB, and we know, it's not only social, it's cultural, right? So it's just not just about nutrition. It's really about how we celebrate milestones in our lives.
It's about far more than that. I mean, we're now into the Christmas season, and already everyone will be thinking about what to do for Christmas and their menus coming up. Yeah. So when I think about food, it's about family, it's about psychology, it's about everything else. So I love eating, just the taste of food, but way beyond that, I mean, food is another way in which you can take the pulse of everything from your personal life to the state of society.
Absolutely. And I think many people will be planning their Christmas menus. I mean, I don't know what it's like in your home. In my home, I grew up in a home where it was a very big deal. And my mom always did a massive 3-course meal, all on her own. She's really, really efficient. She's a kitchen and a cuisine aficionado, my mom. I did not inherit all those skills, so it's considerably pared down. However, we still try and put a little bit of effort into our Christmas meal.
When do you start, by the way? Do you start on Christmas Day or the day before? Because in my family growing up, my biggest memory around Christmas is that the shopping and the cooking for Christmas starts earliest on Christmas Eve.
Well, if you are the one unfortunate enough to be making the biryani for Christmas, then you do start the night before. There's absolutely no way around it. But have you started planning your menu already? I know that at home you've got someone who's come out of chef school.
Yes, my partner did go to chef school. Yeah. We haven't, to be honest. He usually loves running around, but I get anxious on his behalf, even though all I'm doing is the eating. So I'm not sure whether we're going to do it this year, but usually we first have to decide, is it his family this year or my family? And then he normally thinks about the menu probably around the 21st, the 22nd. So he's not great at planning, although I don't tell him that because he thinks that he is. And then starts cooking bright and early on Christmas Day itself. So that's normally how it goes. But I'm trying to persuade him that this year perhaps we should pare it down a little bit. In part because I think there's just way too much anxiety around Christmas cooking.
Yeah, no, absolutely. This is part of the reason that we're doing the show, right? To actually to draw that anxiety out and make it a really pleasant experience. I'm surrounded by books on this table, as you can see, and I'm about to introduce our guests in just a moment. But
it's a very pink one.
Yes, it's called Oink. Right, and I know you.
I love it. I love that title.
Breakfast, right?
I love a good breakfast.
So I think there's going to be something in there for you to look at and enjoy.
But you don't like pork?
No.
When did you first tell you're a vegetarian, by the way? Did you come out?
Did you have to come out?
So we both had to come out for different reasons.
Yes. I think mine was less interesting than yours, perhaps. Are you going to run off and have a bacon breakfast now?
I will have a big breakfast, but my breakfast preferences are very simple. I love eggs, fried medium, preferably, coming up here behind me. Yeah. And I always feel bad for the amount of bacon that I eat. I almost routinely ask for an extra bit of bacon. So that's probably what I'm going to have. Maybe some avo on the side. And then to pretend to be healthy, I'll balance it with freshly squeezed orange juice. Are you a big breakfast person?
No, I'm not. I usually don't have breakfast.
So what do you have? One of those smoothie people?
No, I'm actually sort of a hot water and lemon person in the morning.
Okay.
But I have a much bigger meal later in the day. I can't stop myself eating for the rest of the day.
Well, I can't wait to hear you being in conversation with some of our amazing guests who've had just so much to share with us.
Absolutely. So off you go then, enjoy your breakfast. I'll catch up with you in a short while.
I won't keep you bacon.
Thanks for that, UB. Let me introduce you to our guests now. Really privileged to have with us food veteran, writer, critic, chef You're just about everything, Madura. Dora Sitole, so well known to us on our television screens, in our magazines, for the number of cookery books that you've produced over the years. Welcome, Madura.
Thank you so much.
You're
Thanks
celebrating
for
40
having me, Joanne.
years.
40 years.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for celebrating that with us. And of course, we've got with us as well Kavashan Pillay, who's executive chef at Protea Hotels by Marriott Oratambo. Welcome, Ku.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here and so excited. Everything about food and Christmas just has a bit of that tingle.
Yes, it does, doesn't it? Especially for you guys prepping the food. Madura, I'm going to kick off with you because your book is just beautiful. 40 years of iconic food. Congratulations to you.
Thank you so much.
And it is such a beautiful food journey. Was something I really loved about it was how you delve into family history. You talk about your heritage. There are beautiful pictures of your children, your husband, your cousins. It's really quite a narrative that you put in this book.
Yes, I thought, I've been in food 40 years, and I think the fact that I made it so far, in this career, I get a lot of questions from young chefs. Or how did you do it? Well, how did you get here? So I thought it would be nice to put my story in a cookbook and then combine it. I trust myself to just do a memoir like a big one. So this is part memoir, part recipe book, which I think resonates more with me. So that's why I divided into the different stages of my life. It's 7 chapters, which spans 7 decades, because I'm just pushing 70 now. So yes.
This is amazing. I mean, and I love this phrase that you used in one of the introductions. Cuisine isn't fixed. Every individual brings their history and themselves to the kitchen. I love the idea of this.
Definitely, you bring your history, you bring your upbringing, you just bring yourself to it. And I think sometimes you can dabble with kind of like international cuisine, but you will always come back to where you began. For me, no matter how much fancy food I cook, but at the end of the day, sitting with a plate of idombolo and umholi tribe, it's just kind of like it's sport.
Home food, soul
Yes, yeah.
Mom, you've travelled a lot though. You're really well travelled in the country and outside. And I want to start with that because you've actually you've divided the book into so many chapters where you pay tribute to food from each of the country's provinces, for example. And it just talk us through how you chose that cuisine.
Well, with a chapter on Cape to Cairo, it's all the countries, African countries that I went to when I was working on my book, Cooking from Cape to Cairo. Right. So I just had to revisit and just choose just one interesting recipe for each country, which is more like their national dish. And then talk a bit about the chef that I got the recipe from. Because it's always nice to always pay tribute to someone that taught you something. And I learned a lot traveling through Africa. And then the international one, it was more because when working for a magazine, you travel a lot. Usually being a food editor or fashion editor. So I used to travel with the fashion team to various countries. And also I used to be invited by the government to go promote South Africa, like if they have a South Africa week, say in Tokyo, Memphis, Tennessee. So I had to bring all those experiences into the book and just choose one particular recipe that kind of like resonated with me in each country.
Yes, it must have been difficult paring them down and saying this is what I'm going to bring my 40 years down to.
Oh wow, it was difficult. It was difficult, yeah. And you start off with so many recipes. You type until your fingers are like, and then you have to then bring it down, and then even after bringing it down, you still have to bring it down some more. And even after the shoot, we shot over 12 days. About 10 recipes per day. We still had to bring, some recipes, which was, but it's just not easy to come up with the recipes that really resonate with you.
So would you say these are your favorite recipes or your favorite ones to cook? Most well received? What's the final?
Probably more well received because I had to think. Because at the end of the day, a recipe book has to teach probably your followers something, So I had to look at recipes that I think I know are easy to prepare, recipes that I think people will go back to, recipes that I think are important. You know, like, I mean, a lot of these recipes are really kind of like your basic kind of go-to recipes. So I wanted to just have all those recipes that people could, you know, so that they can use the book as kind of like a guideline, and it should be like a well-thumbed book that people will keep going back to, because there's nothing fancy or complicated, but it's just cooking from the heart.
Yes,
yeah.
yes. It's still very sophisticated in many ways, Mom. Because I mean, I had a look at some of those the recipes, what you've done with them. You have given them quite a sophisticated twist in many ways.
Yeah, because you can. Yeah, I mean, you develop, but the recipe is still basic, and but then you just jazz it up a bit to make it fancy, so that when you're entertaining, you look clever. You know, yeah. So yeah, but then this basic, I think you get quite a spectrum of recipes here, from basic to advanced.
Okay, so that's brilliant. Now you're also a food critic, and we gave you a couple of books to look at that are going to hit the shelves ahead of this Christmas. I'd really recommend a lot of these. This is the first one you looked at, Quick and Easy Plant-Based Deliciousness, and this is by Ella, her Deliciously Ella brand. And the owner of the Olives and Plates restaurant, Andrea Neofito, also reviewed this book for us. Just to give us an idea of what it's about, I want to quickly go to Andrea in the test kitchen. Andrea, just tell us quickly what you thought about Ella Mill's book.
Reviewing Deliciously Ella is a style of cooking which is very close to my heart. It's very simple, easy, clean recipes, and I find in these times the demand for plant-based vegan foods is growing vastly. And Ella makes it just so easy to be able to follow through her recipe, and they're quick and easy. And I think in these times, we don't have all the time in the world to create all these dishes.
Thank you so much for that, Andrea. Mark, what did you think of this book?
No, because I'm not a vegetarian, and I've got friends who are very much into eating plant-based food, and I think I'm slowly getting there. But then I also just believe that throughout my life I've been eating a lot of veggies. My meals really made up of vegetables more than meat. I do eat meat, but I don't eat big amounts of meat. So, but then, you know, each chapter she opens with kind of like 4 pages of explaining what the recipes are about. I actually enjoyed reading those intros because they kind of like educated me. And afterwards I was like, oh yeah, I think I need to do better. You know, so I enjoyed it, and the recipes seem to be quite simple, and the pictures are nice and fresh, and you actually want to make everything that's in here. So I actually enjoyed it. I think it's just, in a way, got me thinking about plant-based food. Because I mean, for me, it's just been like quite a nice idea. But then I think going through this book, it actually was like, you know what, you've got to now take this seriously.
Yeah, I felt the same way because I'm vegetarian. And I still feel guilty being vegetarian. I almost feel like, okay, this will be the book maybe that pushes me over the edge into veganism. And I did cook something from there yesterday. I actually cooked a nice Spanish rice, which came out pretty well. Doesn't look as good as Ella's, but I think it tasted okay. My family's still alive, thankfully. Kuvash and Pillay, let me bring you in here because we're talking very much about domestic cooking here, but you are cooking delicious food en masse for hundreds or for thousands of people at a time. So this must be a pretty busy period for you in general.
Well, I think 2020 is going to be a very unique one for us. It's busy, but not quite busy, if that kind of makes sense.
Yes.
And we've also got to be a bit cautious as well with our planning around Christmas. Because the pandemic has kind of affected a lot of income with people, so their spending is going to be a little bit different, and that's why I think these books are amazing, because it gives you such different ideas, but also cost effective, and how to use an ingredient, but making 4 different dishes out of it.
Ah, right. Okay, so I hadn't thought of that. And of course, we referred to that book, Oink, a little bit earlier, the Billy Forsman book. What did you think of that?
Well, I think it's so catchy. I mean, firstly, the title Oink.
Yes.
But I also believe, as a chef, but also as a consumer, I think pork is such an underrated meat. And look, I mean, everybody has bacon for breakfast, and gammon is a centerpiece on a Christmas menu. But other than that, nobody really goes towards or leans towards pork. But did you know that pork's actually quite a nutritional meat? It's got it's high in protein, it's got vitamins, and it's actually a very leaner meat compared to your standard red meats like your beef or your lamb. Yeah, so it's actually obviously being trimmed because it's also quite a fatty meat. So if you trim it, it's actually quite healthy if you're following a controlled diet. And I think this book here showcases the pig from literally head or nose to tail, if I can say that. And I think for the South African market, there's a section on offals in here, and it really, extends the boundary, giving you such good ideas. And there's also some chefs that have lent some of their recipes to it. So, and what I like about the book, the way it's laid out, it gives you a step-by-step guide on the different cuts of the meat and how to then adapt it. But the highlight for me is right at the beginning, there's a flavor wheel. So it's actually got continental flavors, and you can actually choose. So if you want a South American dish, what flavors you are looking for, what spices you need to get. If you want, pork is very versatile, especially in Asian cuisine, and that's what's used so much in Asian, Chinese, Thai food. And there's a whole section on Thai and Asian flavors that you can infuse in these dishes. I think it's such a brilliant book, and also it gives you the skill level. So if you want to venture into something a bit highly skilled or more chefy, and you have some time, then you can plan accordingly. But a lot of the recipes are rated on that easy to medium rating.
I'm going to then now bring us to another book that caught my attention, and I must say it's really, in my view, well beyond my abilities, and that is the Larousse Patisserie and Baking, and that's, of course, a huge collection of 200 recipes. It's really a bit of a tome. Andrea actually tested out one of the recipes for us in her kitchen, and I just want to check in with Andrea to see how this recipe came out. Andrea, I believe you've been busy with the eclairs in the kitchen.
It's a beautifully presented book. It comes in a hardcover folder, as well as ribbons for place markers. It is a baking Bible. As for the content, it is extensive, from pastries to sorbets to baking techniques to pastry making, and it is particularly intrigued me how it shows you and gives you all these ideas and almost kind of your grandma's secrets that they don't always like to share with you, making them flop-proof recipes. And I think that's something that everybody strives to get, because there's nothing worse than going out of your way to create a recipe and get all the ingredients, put the effort in, and it doesn't work out the way you had thought it or intended to. It is definitely a book for life and something that I'd like to keep. And to give as a gift, I think is very special, because it's something everybody will always go to. It's got anything you can think of, from sorbets to pastry to sponges to mousses, anything you can think of. That's why I found this book. It's almost like you only need this. I decided to bake something out of the book. It's called an easy eclairs, and honestly, it is easy. What I found so interesting in Larousse's baking illustration is that it even explains to you the size of the nozzle, which just brings your baking to more, it gives you more accuracy, more, the more detail you have, the better the outcome is going to be, and the more comfortable you're going to feel creating the dish. So I'm just going to show you quickly how I'm just piping this delicious mousse. That's obviously part of the recipe. And then you just dunk it into this amazing silky chocolate sauce. I mean, this is such a crowd pleaser. Who wouldn't want that? And then you can, the magic about this is you can make different ones. You don't even have to have, they don't all have to be the same. So you can put nuts in some of them, you can put dried fruit in on some of them, you can add just icing sugar maybe, you can keep them plain. If in case you don't have any of the other ingredients, just keep it plain. I'm going to tuck into one and see what I've created, because I am such a chocolate fan. This is yum, yum, yum.
Fantastic, Andrea. That looks delicious. And I must tell you, I did actually manage to taste some of those eclairs with chocolate mousse in the center. So those were really decadent and delicious. Exactly up my alley. Cool. What did you think of that book?
So firstly, let me just tell you about the Larousse. So the Larousse gastro book, which I term the Bible of chefing. So that was put together by the French culinary team, and it dates back to when chefing started, with Escoffier, etc. And that is my reference in any kitchen that I work in, and that applies to thousands of chefs worldwide. But what I like about this specifically is that now they've made one dedicated to patisserie and baking. And this is such a good step-by-step guide. It's got a picture for every step in the recipe. And I think that, Joe, that you can also bake out of this book. And what's quite nice about it is that they've kept to the traditional French recipes. And that mousse that you're speaking about is the proper, creme classique French cuisine, or style, should I say, of making anything patisserie. And also, this book has divided it into different sections. So there's, your tea time treats, there's cakes, there's gâteaux, and there's even a section called celebration cakes. So if you want to really now tip the boundary and do something, and excite your family, especially during Christmas, you want to move away from, the traditional chocolate lob cakes or the trifle, and you don't want to experiment into something more decadent.
Yes, it's wonderful. But I'm still a little bit intimidated by this whole thing, Madora. The thing of this is the size of the nozzle you should use. I mean, I've never so much as piped cream from a nozzle. Yes, it is a bit intimidating for me, I'm afraid, when it comes to baking.
Yeah, but it always sounds complicated because I mean, even the title itself is intimidating. But this book, that saved me. That's where I started. I've got the old big one, the grey one, and it does look kind of like threatening, but I don't know. Maybe it's just the passion that I have with food, and I know a lot of people who like, you guys make it look easy. But I think it is easy.
You think it is easy? I'm just wondering how flop-proof these recipes are. Madora, would you say Larousse is flop-proof?
Flop-proof.
Even, yeah, so an idiot's guide to baking.
The recipes are tested. The thing is, you can't put recipes in a book before testing them. I don't know. Right. Maybe there are books where recipes haven't been tested. But like for instance, the Larousse, its success, I think, is just on how flop-proof the recipes are. And that's where I started.
Yeah. I'm curious to hear what you're planning for your Christmas tables. Koo, you no doubt will be cooking for a number of guests. How do you go about planning that menu for Christmas? Are books like this at all useful?
So I've already planned our Christmas menu, and this year I'm going to be cooking for one of our other hotels. I'm going to be celebrating Christmas in the Kruger.
How wonderful.
So I've got a menu that's going to be showcasing the Kruger and what the Kruger's known for. So yes, there will be a gammon, there will be a roast beef, but I'm going to now, should I say, extend the boundary, and we're going to be putting out a roasted warthog, and I'm going to be doing a kudu casserole as well to include onto the buffet. So I think at the last count, I had 52 dishes that we're going to be presenting on Christmas Eve. We're actually going to be doing Christmas Eve dinner because on Christmas Day, a lot of the guests will be in the park on the game drives.
Okay. Fantastic. And the atmosphere of that will be beautiful.
No, absolutely. It's going to be outside under the African skies. We're going to have the boma going. And the chefs are so excited, and I'm excited to be there because it's going to be my first Christmas in the bush. Yes.
How lovely. That's divine. Madora, are you doing something at home this year? Or
Yes, at home. We'll probably go to my son's house. Usually it's at my house, and I cook or my daughter cooks. My daughter loves cooking, so we'll probably just be cooking between me, Pumi, and Tlantla, my daughter-in-law. We'll probably be cooking at my son's house because he's just renovated his kitchen.
Okay,
so we're going to kind of test drive it. Yeah.
So tell me now, when you're planning for this, I don't know whether you've got family members with lots of different dietary requirements and so on. How do you go about planning for that? When you've got someone who doesn't eat meat, someone who's vegan, someone who's
We cook so much food, just like lots of veggies, lots of salads, lots of meat. It's just like really, yeah.
okay. So there is a variety. There's
There's a
something for
variety.
everyone.
Obviously, there'll be fish, there'll be lamb, beef, everything you can think of. Yeah, it's actually sometimes too much food, but we do go through it.
Yeah, but it's great to have leftovers the next day as well.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's something to take home in your scuffed tin.
Well, so lovely chatting to you, Madura. Once again, congratulations. Thank you for being with us. And really happy holidays to you. And Koo, thank you for making yourself available. I mean, I think your guests are going to be very, very spoilt this Christmas. 52 meals that you've had to plan.
And counting.
And counting. There you go. It never ends, the life of a chef, I think. But wonderful to have had both of you do deep dives into these books and tell us more about what you thought of them. Great to have your expert opinion. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you very much. So Yubi, don't tell me you've finished having breakfast already.
I want everything now. I mean, the roast water, the 52 odd meals. I'm just listening to your conversations with our authors and how absolutely sumptuous.
No, it really is.
It's incredible the place that food has in our lives.
It really is.
But as I'm listening, I got to confess, I'm thinking, oh my God, is it possible to be a foodie or gluttonous and still be healthy? I'm sort of torn between wanting to try everything Koo was talking about and still aspirationally have a six-pack.
I've given up on the six-pack, right? I think I enjoy food much too much for that. But there's one more book I want us to look at before we say goodbye today, and this is the Tasha's book. And you weightlift, so maybe you can just have a bit of a session here.
That's it.
There's a reason that one doesn't fall asleep with a book like this.
It's a stunning book.
It's a stunning book.
It is
It's
absolutely
a gorgeous
beautiful.
book. And let me actually hold it up to the camera here. It's called Tasha's Inspired, and it is a celebration of food and art by Natasha Sidoris, who is the owner of Tasha's. Eusebius and I lunched there from time
I love
to
it. She's
time.
the owner, but I'm the mayor of Tasha's. I go to Tasha's at least once a week. Love the entire experience. And it's about more than the food. So, I mean, it really is an incredible place in terms of atmosphere, service. She's an incredible ambassador for Tasha's itself. And what I love about this book, besides the food and the recipes, and you can take Tasha's home literally and figuratively, is the food photography and the works of art. I mean, this book itself is an example of how books are sometimes more than just the content. A book can be an artifact or a work of art. And some of the artworks in here are just absolutely stunning.
I just love how she's drawn on the inspiration of these artworks to end up with this final product. And you may sit at her table and you may feast on that food, but now you're actually able to trace it back to her influences.
Yes.
The things that she fills her heart, her head, her soul with in order to come up with these amazing recipes. So look out for that. I think that could be a very special gift this Christmas. Tasha's Inspired. Dora Satole, 40 years of iconic food. Oink, the perfect pork cookbook by Billy Forsman. And of course, we did this lovely one, Ella Moles' Deliciously Ella, quick and easy, plant-based deliciousness. So what a variety to choose from. Don't forget, for dessert, you need that, or I should say I need, the Larousse Patisserie and Baking book. That is really a Bible in terms of all the recipes that you need, particularly if you have a sweet tooth. So I think that brings us to the end of the show, Yubi.
It does, and I'm quite sad, but I think I'm full. Full on absolutely brilliant food journalism. Food works are amazing, and this is really the perfect book to buy, even in a downturn in the economy, because it is a book that you will return to feed your soul.
That's beautifully put, and that's how we're going to wrap it up today. Thanks very much to our partners in this exclusive books. Go and have a look on their website if you want to take a look at more of these books or get a bit more detail, www.exclusivebooks.co.za. And of course, you can watch this on the Exclusive Books YouTube channel. It'll be available on Facebook, on Instagram as well. Go onto their website and get some vouchers as well if you're not quite sure what the perfect cookbook is to buy for your loved one this Christmas. And thank you very much to our partners in this, Pen Macmillan, Jonathan Ball, NB Publishers, and Jacana, who made this possible.
Absolutely, and the authors themselves.
Catch you soon. Take care till next time. Bye-bye.